Hello YouTube and welcome to Full Dottle, a channel dedicated to tamping topics such as pipes, tobacco, lore, and more. I am your host, the Bearded Briarman, and without further ado, let's get lit. Welcome back everyone, and on this episode of Full Dottle, we're going to be doing another blending video. This is going to be a series on blending a tobacco blend for JoJo Piper. JoJo Piper likes a lot of things in his tobacco. I have talked to him in detail about what he would like, and so I'll get into that in just a second, but first, a little housekeeping. I'm smoking my 7LE673 KS Rusticated Roma Lucite, also known as the Fridays 7LE, and in it I've got some Oak Alley. I'll tell you, this Oak Alley is absolutely superb. I have just finished, this was the last bowl out of my second tin of it since my review has went up, and I just ordered another tin of it. Can't get enough. All right, so in this blend, it is going to begin with a lot of components. I'm trying to, JoJo Piper really likes his Burley Bite. He also really likes his vitamin N, nicotine. And so this blend is going to have an assortment of Burleys, Orientals, and Rustica, as well as an addition of a tobacco component that is not commonly used, not commonly known. It is the Maryland 606 that you can find at Whole Leaf Tobacco. Take that back, it is leafonly.com that you can find that. These are the tobaccos that I hand shredded myself with my tobacco shredder. A lot of work in that, but anyway, just so you know, I really don't know what this is going to do. I know what the different components have as far as flavor profiles. The Rustica has the highest nicotine content of all the tobacco varietals, up to 9%. And so we'll see what happens. But this first take here toward our blend is going to be a mishmash of different flavors and different components. I'll explain each of these as we get into them. Because they weren't necessarily chosen at random, there is a method to my madness, and so I'll explain that as we go. If you'll join me really quick, I've got the GoPro here. I've got all the tobaccos already weighed out. I'll explain them to you, how much is going to go into this first blend. This is going to be version 1 of JoJo Piper's blend. We're going to call it FDOB number 3 version 1 for now. I do have a name picked out for the final product though, and I think you'll like it. Any of you that know JoJo Piper will understand the name as soon as I say it, as soon as I give the final blend its name and brand it. You will understand why it has been given that name. For those of you who do not know who JoJo Piper is or who are not subscribed to his channel, I will leave a link down in the bucket. You can go on that link, go directly to his channel, give him a look-see. He's got some great content. Gotta love the guy. He is one of my best friends here on the YTPC. Absolutely love him. Great guy. So let's get started. Join me now on the GoPro. Alrighty everybody, so in JoJo's blend here, we are going to be using 7 different components. One of those components is basically the white flower of tobaccos, if you will. It's found in a great deal of the blends out there. It is going to be the unsweetened Black Cavendish. The reason I use this is because it's got a mostly neutral flavor. The flavor profile that it does have is a bit mineral, boggy, and just a little bit of a mild sweetness to it. But the main component of that tobacco, or that process of creating that tobacco, is that the neutral aspect of the tobacco helps to carry the rest of the flavors. It helps to disperse the flavors within the blend and carry them, as well as give a thicker smoke, a fuller mouthfeel. So it just helps to spread those flavors around. But the components that we're going to use today are dark Burley, white Burley, Maryland 606, dark fired Kentucky, Rustica, the unsweetened black Cavendish, and also Turkish Samson. So the first component that we're going to use is going to be dark Burley. The dark Burley, as everyone knows, is a very woody, nutty type tobacco. It is very basic. If you look at a scale from acidic and basic, this is on the base side of it, which is going to be caustic to your tongue, causing that classic Burley bite, that spiciness that Burley has. This is going to be a full Burley. The dark Burleys are a very robust Burley, giving us lots of that bite. And for this blend, we're going to start out with 20% dark Burley. The next component that we are going to use is white Burley. White Burley is on the more mild side. If the three components here, dark Maryland 606 and white Burley, the dark is going to be your robust, very full flavored Burley. Your Maryland 606 is going to be in the middle, and then your white Burley is on the bottom end of that spectrum. The white Burley has a very mild Burley flavor, and the sweetness is much like a macadamia nut. So it has the common flavor characteristic of the dark Burley, but much, much, much more mild than the dark Burley. We are also going to use 20% of white Burley. The next component, as I was saying, is the Maryland 606. Maryland 606 is a very middle ground Burley flavor. I don't know if it is an actual Burley varietal, but it has a flavor profile much like Burley, but it is in between dark and white Burley. The white Burley is going to be a companion to the dark Burley. We want it to tone it down, balance it out, and then this Maryland is going to add in some of those nutty and woody type flavors that the white Burley is going to tone down in the dark Burley. So with these three types of Burley components combined, we should be able to balance them out and create a very balanced Burley flavor. The bite shouldn't be extreme, and it should have enough sweetness to be able to complement the type of robust flavor that we're gonna get out of the out of the dark Burley. All right, so the next component that we're gonna get here, spilled some, and I don't want to lose any of it because if you remember, we're starting out with 6 grams. We're not going to have a lot. This is only going to create about 3 bowls worth so that we can taste it and see what we're getting. So the end product here is going to be 6 grams of this blend, okay? All right, so the dark Burley, we have 1.2 grams. White Burley, we have 1.2 grams. And the Maryland is a 14%, and it is going to be 0.84 grams. The next component that we are going to put in here is the dark fired Kentucky. The dark fired Kentucky is 14% of this blend, and it has 0.84 grams. Dark fired Kentucky, as you may know, has a taste that's similar to, it's got this sweetness and unusual taste to me, unique to it. It's like a mix between allspice, clove, charred hickory, and oak, and the aftertaste is a bit like sandalwood to me. But it's kind of like, with the exception that it has that clove type flavor, it's a bit like a mild Latakia as far as a condiment type tobacco. But at any rate, the dark-fired Kentucky is 14% or 0.84 grams of this blend. The next tobacco component that we are going to add is the Rustica. Rustica, as you know, has the highest percentage of nicotine of any of the tobacco varietals. It is actually a wild tobacco. This is believed to be the first tobacco that was presented to the Italian conquistadors when they discovered the New World. The Rustica has a taste that is very tannic and spicy, much like the dark Burley. It has a tartness and savory mix that to me reminds me of a mix between cilantro and oregano. It's got a very, if this makes sense, it's got a very green type flavor to it, like green spice, like a cooking spice type flavor. That's where I get the cilantro and the oregano. We'll put that in there. Rustica has a very, very unique flavor. It's unlike anything I've had before in any of the other tobaccos. And I will tell you, as I was reviewing the tobacco components for myself one by one individually, just to brush up on my understanding of what they taste like, it has a nicotine content that will just knock your socks off if you're not careful. It's quite high in nicotine. The next component that we're going to put in there is the Black Cavendish. Again, it has a very mineral type flavor, and it basically just helps to spread the flavors around. It adds a thick, full-bodied smoke, very creamy smoke, has a little bit of sweetness like a browned butter or a very, very mild brown sugar, but mostly it has that mineral boggy type flavor that helps to spread the flavor of the other components around. The Rustica, we are putting in 10%, which is 0.6 grams, and the unsweetened Black Cavendish is also at 10% or 0.6 grams. The last one that we're going to put in here is Samson Turkish Oriental. Samson Turkish Oriental is one of my favorite Orientals. This component has a flavor that is a bit like, it's very floral, mild mineral, and has the sweetness of like a very fresh popped popcorn. So it adds to the overall blend in sweetness. And to me, the reason that I use these components, the three Burley flavors are kind of self-explanatory. They'll balance each other out and add to that nutty and woody type flavors. But in order to bring out the different types of flavors from the Rustica, Dark-Fired Kentucky, and the Samson Turkish, those three are going to complement each other. The Samson Turkish has that floral component, and the Dark-Fired Kentucky has that allspice and clove. So those two are going to interplay together to create, hopefully, new depths and new complexities within the blend. And that Rustica, with its almost tartness and its savory oregano and cilantro, is going to add to that overall tart component to it. That's why I didn't add any Red Virginia into this, because the Rustica has enough tartness that I think that it would almost compete with a Red Virginia, but I think that it will actually help to complement the other two, the Samson Turkish Oriental as well as the Dark-Fired Kentucky. So the Dark-Fired Kentucky has that very smoky barbecue-esque type component, whereas the Rustica has a very savory tart component to it. So I think that those will interplay together and create a very wonderful play and create new levels of complexity for us. We shall see. I don't know how this is going to turn out. Like I said, this first go-round is really just an idea I have in my mind. I know what the individual components taste like. And so I'm putting these together because that's what I'm kind of going for here. We're basically going to be creating a mix between a Burley base tobacco blend and an American style tobacco blend. So we'll see what happens. As with all of our Full Dottle original blend blending videos series, now that I have blended this up, I am going to steam hydrate this one time. I will jar it for 2 or 3 days to allow the moisture content to equalize within there, and then allow some of those flavors to marry together just a little bit and, you know, kind of create an environment of homeostasis. I want this to be equal in its moisture level, and then we will try it out in a few days. On this video, I will flip the screen around. I'll use a transition, and through the magic of television, it'll be 2 or 3 days later, and we'll try this out, everyone. All right, everybody, so we've allowed the tobacco blend FDOB number 3 version 1 to rest. It is time to try it out, and with all of my reviews of any tobacco blend or straight tobacco, I am going to be reviewing it in the AKB Meerschaum. This is a Tekken. It's a tomato-shaped lattice finish. So let's light this up and see what we get, and find out what we need to do to hone in on the blend that we're trying to create for JoJo Piper. All right. So right off the bat, I'm thinking that the Samson Turkish is a little too high. I'm getting a lot of that sweet popcorn kernel kind of taste. That's not the direction I want to go with this. The Maryland 606 is completely lost. It's washed out. I think we may remove the Maryland 606 completely. And the dark-fired Kentucky is not coming through as strong as I would like it to. I think the white Burley is going to be plenty in the way of sweetness, because this is not smoking like a true Burley base or American style blend. If you remember back from my Choosing a Tobacco series, there was a two video series. An American blend is basically a Burley base with the addition condiment of Virginia and Perique. At first, I assumed that the Rustica would compete with a Red Virginia. But smoking it in this blend, I don't think they would compete at all. I actually think an addition of the Red Virginia would complement the Rustica. Because the tartness on the Red Virginia side is going to be on the sweet tartness, like a fruity tartness, whereas the tartness on the Rustica side is actually a bit of a mineral or savory tartness. It's got that oregano and cilantro type tartness to it, whereas the Red Virginia is going to have more of a rye berry or a prune type tartness to it. But I just think it's a little too sweet. So, I think what we will probably try to do, and the Maryland's washed completely. I'm not catching a lot of that Maryland at all. It is between the dark Burley and the white Burley, the Maryland is just lost. So I think I'm going to cut the Maryland out completely and replace it with Red Virginia. We'll see where that takes us. I want to increase the dark-fired Kentucky. Perhaps increase the Rustica. Let's see where that puts us. So for the next episode of the FDOB number 3 version 2, we're going to go ahead and take the Maryland 606 completely out because it's a wash right now. We're going to replace it with Red Virginia. We're going to take a little bit of the percentage from that tobacco component and we're going to add to the Rustica as well as the dark-fired Kentucky, and we'll see where that puts us. And I want to decrease the Samsun Turkish Oriental by quite a bit, if not completely. What I may end up doing, now let's wait until version 3 for that, because this seems like it's, we're coming along. This is actually a really tasty blend, but it's just too sweet. It's got too much of that popcorn kernel type flavor from the Turkish Oriental, the Samsun, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to decrease the Samsun Turkish Oriental and add what I decrease back into some of the other components, and I will discuss that on version 2. So stick around until next Saturday. We will do this again. And see where that puts us. Right now, I'm getting way too much sweetness and I'm not getting enough of that tartness. So I want to increase the Rustica and also put the addition of the Red Virginia in there. See if that can increase that tartness for us just a little bit. Make it more like an American style blend. And go from there. So off to a good start. Not the direction I wanted to go with it right now, but hey, that's what blending is all about, is just tinkering and figuring things out as you go. Eventually we'll get to the actual blend and it's going to be fantastic. Just wait and see. So that's going to do it for this episode of Full Dottle. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, and until the next time we see each other, I bid you farewell and happy piping. Bye everyone. Have you enlisted in the Full Dottle platoon yet? It's easy. Just click the subscribe button. Also, hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as I upload the next episode.